I guess we don't need to warn anybody, everybody knows, but the meeting is going to be recorded. And if you don't want to be recorded and visually captured, you need to be aware of that. And if you are visually captured, you can turn off the picture if you choose not to be visually captured. Our mission, as everybody knows, is to ensure the entirety of the property is protected in perpetuity, and that we are going to pay off the city through a tax levy, which is almost done. I'll call roll, and John Hymas. I don't think he's here yet. And all of our other people, John McLaughlin, John
present.
Brown,
Here, present.
Dr. James, are all here. So 4 of us are here. We are joined by people that everybody already knows, so I'm not going to introduce anybody. We do have public comment section if anybody wants to make a public comment.
Here.
Is there anybody who wants to make a public comment? I think we're all, John Blesson, you are the person who could make a public comment if you'd like.
Okay. I was verbally assaulted by a good friend of mine who's a biker about his backyard. He abuts the 100-acre woods and the loss of biking. And I think that the bikers are going to be organized, and we'll make a strong presentation about the biking community. I don't know what's going to happen with the off-leash people. I've been verbally assaulted by them too. It's like,
Poor John. Poor
I'm
John.
just going to these meetings. Anyway, I think that we should be prepared for that. That people need to see it as an important piece of habitat rather than necessarily their backyard.
We need to be open to all things, and we are, and we'll happy to listen to people's interests for sure. We also are, I think, as a group and as a community, pretty committed to some fundamental principles that are outlined in this both the proposed new conservation easement and the master plan, which is going forward.
Hi, sorry I'm late.
Hey, so you're the second person that can make a public comment if you'd like. Yeah.
No comment today. Thank you.
Thank you for showing up. And so, well, I'd like to refer our commissioners to our agenda and see if I can get a motion to approve that agenda. And for any additions, deletions, or corrections to the agenda.
I make a motion to approve the agenda as it stands.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
John and John moved and seconded. Brown and McLaughlin for the record. Further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
There we go. I think that's unanimous. I'd like a motion to consider our minutes of the March 23rd meeting. Would somebody like to make a motion, and then we can have some discussion?
I'll make a motion that those elaborate minutes be approved as they stand. However, I think that somebody after they seconded it is going to want to step in and say something.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
I
John,
would like to make some correct.
thank you, Hugh. Would you please, now we're open for discussion. So Hugh, what do you want to correct?
Page 2, third paragraph, last sentence, or next to last sentence, I guess. It says, I have lost my bottle on this. I haven't lost the bottle, I lost the battle. B-A-T-T-L-E.
Oh, Christ. Okay.
That is a pretty friendly comment, Hugh.
Well, it does sound pretty weird when you read it otherwise, you know.
I kept listening to it, Hugh, and I couldn't figure it out. So thank you for that.
Other corrections?
Yes. Let's see. Another one, I was talking about the fire that was happening up on Connolly Creek, and it was listed as Holly Creek. It's not Holly Creek, it's Connolly Creek.
Again, I think that's a very friendly correction.
You know what page that is, Hugh?
I'm trying to find it.
I mean, I know what you're talking about.
There's so many of them to go through.
I know it. I know where it is. So I know what you're talking about. So we don't have to look anymore for the page number. I'll find it.
Any other comments?
So on the first page, the first line of the last paragraph, instead of transfer, I hope I said translate.
Translate would make more.
I do this off a transcription program, and
Yeah,
so
I get it.
sometimes they do the things weird, and sometimes I catch things and sometimes I don't. So thank you. Anything
I
else?
can't imagine how long it took to transcribe all this. I didn't have time to read it. It takes a whole lot longer to
Rob, I found
read
mine.
it. I'm impressed.
Hugh?
Robin, I found my correction. It's bottom of page 6, Connolly Creek versus Holly Creek.
Yep.
Thank you.
Further discussion, or are we ready to vote? Hearing none, all those in favor, raise your right hand and say aye.
Aye.
Looks unanimous to me. Park Advisory Board meeting report, John Hymas isn't here, but John Blethen, do you have we are so John Rich. John Blethen, you have
You're so darn lucky.
Speak for
I
yourself.
don't have anything to report on in either parks or greenways. I've gotten pretty excited about the Padden underpass, and we'll probably be working on that, but it's not really relevant to this group.
Well, thank you for all the work that you do, John, and thanks for your comments too. Old business, we've got a number of things that are pretty substantial here. We've got the Herrera update, the master planning update, the meeting with the Whatcom Land Trust in response to urban forestry plan letter, and other old business. I'd just like to report on the one, if I could, the meeting with the Whatcom Land Trust regarding conservation easement, and the follow-up for that. Actually, I have a little report about that too. So we did meet John, excuse me, not everybody is John. Bob Carmichael and I met with two leaders from the Land Trust. We came to understand their process, I think, in fair detail. We outlined an approach we'd like to take, and they seem favorable towards that. So we're moving in the direction of a mutual agreement about them being the holders of the conservation easement in the long run, once we get a final conservation easement. And there was some thought of being a little more creative with it than we have been, and involving Rand Jack in that. I reached out to Rand. I don't know if you had a chance to do that too, Bob, and he's willing and able and interested in supporting the effort to the extent that he's able. It turns out that Mr. Carmichael's firm is also the attorneys for the land trust, and so we really need a separate attorney to look at this stuff. And Rand was the name that came up. Bob, did you have more to say about that?
I thought the meeting went very well, and this, our easement will go to the Conservation Committee of the Land Trust in the next few months to review it, and we will get a better gauge on where they stand after that meeting. Rand is on that committee, and so we will be talking to him I have not had an opportunity to get a hold of Rand yet, but I do plan to do that in the near future, and we'll talk about that.
I exchanged emails with him and he expressed a willingness to participate and an interest in supporting this effort, and also is very grateful for all the work that everyone in this group has done. Yes, John Brown.
May I ask, perhaps it's premature to talk about this, and I just as soon not talk about it if it's something that we shouldn't talk about at this time. But was there any question? Was there any question of money raised?
Sure.
So
there
far
was.
as the,
Yeah. So what they said before was they had estimated between $50,000 and $200,000 is the contribution we need to make towards the legal defense of this conservation easement. And it isn't clear where. That's a big range, but I think it's within our bailiwick, either one of them. And they'll just need to do an assessment once we get a final conservation easement. Mark, of course, recalling that we don't have that now. We've got an existing one, which would be very difficult to defend and would be on the high end. We've got one we proposed and is kind of baked into the master plan fairly effectively, that would be much easier to defend. And so I think it's going to depend on the what we actually walk away from the city with in an agreement about what that conservation easement actually entails, John.
okay.
But I think it's within our financial means to meet their needs, very likely.
It was never, from the beginning of this entire operation, back in 2012-13, when Mr. Carmichael and met with James King and Ellen Mariner. I happened to be present, so did Kathy McKenzie. There was never any issue of money being given to anyone in order to transfer the conservation easement. That is fine. I understand the sense to that. I'm not sure where to go with that thought, except
So
that
John, it's not to money that goes to them. It's money that we pay to defend the conservation easement that we create. That's the purpose is not to enrich the land trust in any way. It's simply the amount of money they have to pay and that we have to pay in order to defend it legally. And it seems very reasonable to me.
I wonder where does that money go? It is held presumably by us. Is there any sense in which the term of this particular board is going to be extended for a year or two indefinitely in order to manage that money?
That's not the way it works. The money
Okay.
is paid into a trust fund, which is basically a risk pool that a bunch of land trusts around the country participate in. And you pay your money and then you take out what you need at the time that it's needed, is my understanding of how it works. So it'd be a one-time payment once they assess the risk and get from that kind of risk pool group what they anticipate the cost would be. Then that's when we would pay the money. It wouldn't go to it go through the land trust to this risk pool.
And if I can add, John, the reason we didn't raise that in discussions with the city back in 2013 is because the money doesn't go to the city, and it's really none of the city's business whether we pay anybody to take over the land trust. That's between us and whoever we assign the conservation easement to. It really wasn't needed for our discussions with the city. It's really up to this board as to how it wants to assign that conservation easement and to whom and under what terms. And that's what we have been talking about. And the terms that the land trust is going to require, as Frank said, is going to be payment of a lump sum up front to go to this risk pool. My impression from our meeting was the cost would be a lot closer to 50,000 than 200,000, but that remains to be seen, and we'll see what they come back with. And it really isn't the city of Bellingham's concern what we're doing with that. We want to make sure the conservation easement is defended and monitored appropriately in the future for all time, really.
Thank you for explaining that, Bob, and thank you, Frank, for explaining it. I'm satisfied move on. I think you've given a very clear picture of how it stands. Thank you.
Great. Maybe if we could move to the master planning update. And now, I know
Frank?
that, yes,
Can I ask you a question regarding the land trust?
sure, of course.
I'm a little curious and maybe concerned that the city is planning on managing both properties. The one the land trust currently has an easement on, including the large wetland, and the Chuckanut Community Forest as one unit. And so the master planning process should be of interest to the land trust because it concerns a property they have an easement on already. But I've not noticed any participation from them in any of the city's public forums or any of that. I'm wondering, have they been involved in providing comment to the steering committee or anyone? Have they been involved in this at all?
Not that I know of, but I haven't looked at that or asked that question. Bob, you might be in a better position, or they're going to, at some point, they're going to come to us and we're going to have a meeting with them and we'll be able to ask all those questions, the extent to which they've been involved or not involved. And
Right.
obviously it's a very relevant question, but I think we'll get it answered, but I think probably not this evening.
Yeah,
Unless-
so my concern, I've expressed this before, back when the area is being proposed for development, there were impacts that the developer did that violated the easement that the land trust held with the city back then. And I didn't hear a peep from the land trust. And so you've
I think
made the
so.
argument that that was then, and this is now. They have different staff and a different approach, and they recognize it's a different thing. But if we are going to transfer the easement and responsibility to the land trust, I would like to see some evidence that they're involved and are going to take responsibility for this place that does have special needs and needs a relationship with the city.
So I think, John, the simple answer to your question is that they did not have the economic resources to do that at the time. They were relying on volunteer lawyers and others, and they weren't participating in this risk pool that allows for legal action to defend these easements. And that's something they built into all the acquisitions they're taking on now. So I think there is what I perceive as a due diligence on their part to actually have the resources to do that defense. And hence that's what this money is about, is to allow them the access to a resource, a legal resource to defend this. So I think that's the difference between then and now, is they really hadn't planned for that adequately. And now they've got a structure where they're much more careful in what they accept. And there's a definite process for that acceptance. And there's also a financial component that is new that will allow them to defend it more effectively.
Yeah, I get that. And I was on the board when they were discussing these very issues and the need for resources to defend easements and discussions about how much of a fee or financial resources they would need to accept easements. My concern is, now the city is basically planning something that involves one of the properties they have an easement on, which in ways that may or may not be consistent with the easement they have there. And again, given that they're they're managing easements differently now than they did before, I would have expected some participation of them, at least on the property they have an easement. And maybe you could argue it's premature for them to take an interest in the Chuckanut Community Forest because they don't have that easement, but they do have an easement on one of the things that the master plan will cover, and I would expect some participation because they're an important stakeholder. And so I'm puzzled why they haven't, and I'm concerned about transferring an easement to an entity that isn't doing anything differently.
Well, John, that's a legitimate concern that I think we need to raise directly with the land trust. And so as we move forward, none of this is a done deal. This is a willingness to have more discussion place that we're at now.
Right.
We haven't decided they're the people that will do it. And we certainly need to critically evaluate both that option and any other option, like the university or other partners that might be willing to do this. So I want to honor your comment and welcome it to that discussion with the board of the land trust and try to find ways to clarify that. It may be the part of the answer is eternal vigilance on our part is always going to be needed. Maybe not as an official commissioner board, but as individuals in our community too. I mean, there is some vigilance that is going to be necessary going forward to hold people accountable. But that's a legitimate question. Let's ask the land trust.
Yeah, and the other concern is, the best predictor of future behavior is past behavior, and they may have given us promises that okay, these are the reasons why they haven't done things in the past, and then they're going to do things in the future. But we want to see some evidence of a change, and we're running out of time for that evidence to appear before we have to make a decision about transferring easement. So I'd like to engage them sooner rather than later.
Sure. And I'd like to welcome you to those discussions with them, especially if you have you got well thought out questions. Let's bring them forward to the land trust. In the next meeting, if you're willing, I'd love to invite you. And they have a public process themselves that they go through that I'm sure we can participate in as well. I'd like to recognize that Mary Rivkin has joined us. Welcome, Mary. And you're welcome to, we're happy to have you at the meeting, and there may be a process where you can make a public comment. For now, excuse me. Got it. And later there may be room for more public comment.
It looks like she left
I have
the meeting.
Oh, maybe I shouldn't have. The next issue I wanted to raise, with your permission, is the master planning update, and I wanted to see if Vince, did you want to maybe comment on that? I know that you've been involved in it and are an independent
Yeah.
and strong voice, and love to hear your comments and thoughts about it.
Sure. So actually, this meeting is a week and a half before our next steering committee meeting. And at that's going to be Friday, May 6th. So not this Friday, but next Friday at 8 a.m. And, I could bring up the question, John McLaughlin, about the land trust participation in the master plan. But I think I expect that this will be our final or next to final meeting of the steering committee, where the Parks Department will give us a summary of all the public comment to date and maybe tweaks to the outline of the master plan. And we may have to comment on and maybe vote on, although I don't think we can vote on it without, going to our next CCFPD meeting and having you guys vet the final product. So before it goes to before it goes to planning department and then city council, and Parks Department. So anyway, we're nearing the end, but I don't really have any results from the, and you guys have seen probably on Nextdoor and everywhere, all the comments about bicycles and dogs off leash and all that. And I have made a statement saying dogs should not be allowed, period. So I just personally went to that, and John McLaughlin, I hope that you could back that up with some scientific facts when the time comes for that, because people, well, like you heard, I just went over the meeting minutes of your November meeting and when you were voting on the levy and the guy who lives on the south end of the forest, I forgot his name right now, but his comments about dogs should be allowed off leash on the secondary trails. And man, that's not what we want, is it? So,
No.
but we need to prove that, we need to have some kind of factual data about that. So same with the bicycles. So I don't know where that's going to end. But that's a battle I see coming.
I think that's a battle that I see coming too. And I wonder if it seems to me that Nicole Oliver has taken a position coincident or parallel to our own on this, and that she will be forceful, and that we have to rely to an extent on her being forceful in backing up what she sees as the consensus of the steering committee involving us and the city and other people. And that consensus is pretty clear.
Right, but we need some really definitive, factual data behind that. We can't just have anecdotal information.
Right, so if we consider the three kinds of impacts that I think I mentioned, reported in the minutes from last meeting, two of them are not going to have a whole lot of evidence, right? So, or they're transient, right? So if dogs are chasing away, harassing, or otherwise scaring wildlife, it's going to be hard to detect that. What is detectable is waste.
Yeah, waste. Yeah.
So, and waste can be a good surrogate for all the other effects. And so information, or basically do a walkthrough survey of the extent of waste, and then put that back on the advocates for dogs of, look, we have evidence that people have cleaned up their act or cleaned up the acts of the dogs. And so we're going to be more, say, okay, you have, that responsibility allows us to be more permissive of dogs, or no, there has been no change in waste and it's a problem. And so we need to be more restrictive on dogs. If we consider the same thing with bikes, right? All the advocates for bicycles, well, the complaint or the rogue bike trail and jump building that triggered our letter to the Parks Department, was it 6 years ago? Well, that trail, instead of bike jumps, is still there. And so the promise that the bike advocates had, oh, we're going to clean up our act and we're going to behave responsibly and all that sort of stuff. Well, they haven't made good on that promise. And so until something like that, until that happens, then you have a stronger argument pushing back against bike, use advocacy. And so we could do the same thing with dogs regarding waste.
Yeah.
And that really does basically provide an incentive for those advocates and the users to behave responsibly, and then everyone will do.
Yeah.
We have proposed that to the city.
Yep.
Right.
And one of the survey takers back last October suggested to me, and I wish I had written down the name of the person who said this to me just off the cuff, but why are we counting the dogs on leash? We should be counting the poop bags coming out. And I think that might be a way to go in the future. Every dog coming out of that park on a leash should have a poop bag with him or her.
Yep.
But anyway, that's where the steering committee is right now.
Okay, John.
One strategic thing I'd like us to consider, and I don't think we need to decide it tonight, but I do want to put it out for consideration, is that I believe that we should have our own hearings on this plan once it's completed, and that we hold those public hearings, and that we have, much like we've done in the past, we've had broad participation. We've had a variety of interests represented. We've come to our own conclusions based on our own public hearings. And I think that's our I actually see that as our duty, actually. And so I'm hoping that that's a course that we can consider taking, to have a full discussion of all sides and to create a record that then can go before other elected officials for consideration. Thanks for the thumbs up, John Blessing. I think that's pretty much it. One thing I should say is I have to leave a little bit early tonight, so I hope that John Brown, I can push into service to having the rest of the meeting. The last thing I wanted to be part of was a discussion about the Herrera update. We have someone here to do that. I've seen a copy. John McLaughlin has a copy. I think there are some editing that's still needed. I don't think it's ready for prime time quite yet. I've made some notes myself, 3 or 4 things that I think are fundamental that need to be evaluated and considered. And I hope that we can get that out to the entire group very soon for one more deep consideration before we release it to the city.
Frank,
I'm really
actually, I
hoping-
don't have a copy because the SharePoint site did not give me
What didn't?
access. It's on a SharePoint site. They have both Microsoft Word and PDF formats, and I can't get access to that site.
Oh,
The link.
I tried to call a couple of times and I
Yeah.
wondered. So I will ensure, or maybe Tina can ensure that you get a copy that is viewable.
Okay.
Frank, John Blethyn has his hand up. I don't know if you see.
Yeah, Frank, I think your idea about this board weighing in as a board rather than as strictly the members of the steering committee is really a good idea. I've seen a number of these things unravel before, and I'm concerned that the former president of the former chair of the park board led that bike in the park not long ago. And I am worried about the politics of this. I hate to be that person, but when people that surround 100-acre wood see it as their neighborhood rather than its ecological value, that makes me really uncomfortable, particularly if they're pretty enlightened. And when I hear like former deputy prosecuting attorney saying, I'm going to run my dogs in there off leash, I don't care what the law is. This could get really warm, to say the least. And I think you guys should weigh in as a group, separate. I don't see any reason how that interferes with the process. I'm not sure that the next meeting will be the last meeting. It's billed as the last steering committee meeting, but it just depends on how it sails, I think. I can see this process continuing on for a while. We'll see how it plays out.
Thanks, John, and thanks for the encouragement. I agree entirely with your comments and appreciate them. I'm going to need to bow out here for a while, and I also want to I think I told you last time, but I've got prostate cancer. I'm waiting for surgery. When the surgery gets offered, if it can get offered before when it's scheduled, I'm just going to disappear and get it done. And so I apologize if that happens, but I'll be delighted to get it earlier than May 25th when it's scheduled now. My apologies ahead of time on that. John, would you mind chairing the meeting from here on out? And we still have a quorum, so you can go on and hear the update on Herrera and the other business. And I want to thank you all and appreciate it. John, are you willing?
Yes. Okay.
Thank you, sir. See you guys later.
Okay.
Frank, no apologies needed. Please take care of yourself.
Thank you.
Yes. Take care, Frank. We'll be thinking of you.
Thanks.
The things, to the rest of you, the things that we have to go over can be gone so far as the monthly expenses and cash flow sheets, suggestions for new business, they can be gone over in 5 minutes. Why don't we just may I say under the in the agenda, the response to the urban forestry plan letter, which John McLaughlin wrote, that masterpiece that he delivered, and we asked them to consider it, and they have not given, to my knowledge, a response yet. So I don't know what to do about that. I've asked Nicole for a response. This was at least 2 months ago. But I'll tell you what, I'll call her up and find out if they can give us a clear response by the board's
John,
lead.
I think if I recall from our prior meetings, that next step was going to be up to Frank and me to meet with the mayor. Because that letter really concerns a branch of the Public Works Department. And so
Okay.
to her credit, that's really beyond Nicole, and I'm not sure what she would think about it. It's not her work. It does inform her work eventually, but it really is, I think it really does come down to the Public Works Department, and that's why he wanted to talk to the mayor.
Okay, fine. Then in that case, John, I'm going to leave this with you to
Okay.
contact Frank,
Mhm.
and
Yep.
you and Frank can
Great.
go ahead and see the mayor and report on it next time.
Great.
I believe right now we are looking forward to having an update from Tina.
Yeah.
On
So
Harari's program. Go ahead.
basically, I don't think we need to antagonize Nicole about this.
I
think,
could say something. Seth was at City Club today for the luncheon and he's come down with COVID. So
Oh.
he's isolating at home. If you want to talk to him, you have to call him up, I guess, on the phone, but he's at home.
Okay.
He's feeling okay though. He
Oh,
did
God
okay.
love him. We hope so.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, Tina, do you want to give us an update?
Sure. So Chris sends his regards. He wishes he were here, but he has a sick child, so he's doing his duty in that way. So there was a little bit of distribution of the stewardship plan before it was finalized to Frank, but then Chris sent a formal distribution to Frank, and that one had gone through all of our editorial edits, and apparently Frank has been looking at it, but John or none of the rest of the group has seen it. So I'm not too sure how it gets to you guys beyond what we already sent. I will send it as an email to everybody. That sounds like a
Please
better
do.
way than, yeah. But the idea was to get a consolidated set of comments from you as a group, and then we can move forward with trying to address any gaps or revisions or additional information that might be needed. So we look forward to that, and I was gonna try to get an idea of how long that might take, but whatever you guys come up with, just let us know when we can expect that. But I will resend it to everyone tonight. So
Okay, thank you, Tina. Tina, are you in any contact with the Parks Department on this?
as far as the distribution of that plan as it is right now, no. So it's just for your eyes only. And in fact, the figures all say draft, not for distribution. So it's not meant as a document that goes beyond your group. However, I do know that Ann Eisenher has looked at it and she's offered to give us comments in a couple of days. So.
Gina, when are you, I'm sorry. Gina, when are you looking to receive consolidated comments from the board by?
Well, so we were a few days late in meeting our deadline and getting it out to you. But as far as our scheduled date, according to the contract, it's May 30th was supposed to be the final document. So I'd have to look to see when our contract ends, but it doesn't go much beyond, I think it doesn't go through the summer, I don't think. So I mean, 2 weeks would be great, just so that we can turn it around and finalize it. But I don't know if that's doable at this time with the group, so.
It's doable. We'll make it happen.
So then the next question though, John, is who's going to consolidate the comments? if they're looking for consolidated comments? How is that going to happen?
I imagine, Bob, that we would read it. John McLaughlin would weigh in, Frank, Hugh, John Hymas, myself, and send our comments. Perhaps I'm suggesting to Robin to write up 3 or 4 pages of comments and send them to Herrera.
Okay, and I think, some of those comments could be in the form of red line, track change edits, or
Mhm.
in the margin. Robin, are you up to receiving all those comments and consolidating them into one document?
Then
Um,
next-
I'm a little unsure about that right now. Things are sort of in a critical state with my uncle right at the moment, and it may smooth out in the next week. So it could be that when it comes time to look at all those, saying, I don't know how soon people will look at it, but say in a week or 2, that it would be fine. But I'm just a little unsure, so it might be good to have a backup plan to me.
I'll tell you what, Robin, why don't you and I, Tina, you will send it out. We'll assume that John Hymas, John McLaughlin, Frank, and I will make comments, and Hugh will make comments. Robin and I will work out about how to collate them and present suggestions for a response to Tina and any revisions that we feel we want. Does that sound reasonable, Bob?
Yeah, so I'm wondering, and sorry to be such a taskmaster here, but I'm used to trying to get things done, and Herrera's under a schedule with their contract. So what if this is even maybe putting a little bit of pressure on, but would it be possible to get everybody's comments into Robin and you by a week from Friday?
For me, the short answer is no. I depart beginning of next week for a 2-week course research expedition. So I will be beyond internet access for the next 2 weeks and won't be able to look at anything. And I'm completely pressed against the wall until we leave. So
Okay.
I get back May 13th and I could start on things then.
Okay. Well, what about everybody else? What if everybody tried to get it in, by a week from Friday, and we could take it that far and then know that John McLaughlin would be coming in with comments when he returns on sometime after May 13th.
Yeah, that's the way we're gonna have to do it, Bob. It seems to me we have to do it that way.
Tina?
Yeah, that will work. Actually, Robin, I was trying to, I don't know that I have everyone's email address, so I didn't know if you want to send me everybody's email address or I just send it to you and you send it to everyone. How would that work best?
Either way, I
Okay.
can send them to you or I could send it out.
Yeah, I'll just do it that way. I was trying to see how Chris sent it. He sent it while I was on vacation, so I think he sent it to you.
He did send it to me.
I received a copy of it as well, both the PDF and Word version.
Okay.
So I'll plan to get whatever comments I have by a week from Friday into you, Robin, and John. And then if everybody else except for John McLaughlin can try to do the same, maybe we could share that with you, Tina, pending John's return, knowing that you're going to have some other
Right.
substantial
Got
comments.
one
At least that'll get you, you'll be able to work on it.
Yeah, it might be, Robin, you just need to resend the email that Chris sent. I'm just
So
trying to,
Chris sent his message to Robin and Frank, Bob,
Okay.
me, and then internal to your company.
And it was a SharePoint, so there weren't any documents attached to it.
Okay, All right,
His
so-
message says there, he said the link will take you to two formats of the documents, but it is a SharePoint link.
okay,
And that's the
You
link that I,
have to get, when you do that, you have to like request a code to get
Correct.
into it.
okay. I'll just send the documents to Robin and then she'll make sure through email you guys get them. How about that?
That's good.
That's good.
Okay.
Okay,
Can't handle all this fancy computer code stuff. Make sure it's a PDF so I can read it. all right?
Okay,
Okay,
Hugh.
yeah,
PDF.
well, if you send both versions of it,
Yeah.
Gina, then we can send both versions out and I'll print you a copy. Hugh.
yeah, so it depends on if
Great.
you want track changes, you can add comments to PDF, but she's not going to be able to incorporate those comments readily.
Yeah, and the
Correct.
Word is the better format for that.
Mhm.
But I could also type them
Sorry.
in for Hugh if you write them out or something. So,
I can type up the comments and send them back to you, but I'm just not.
yeah, we could do that too.
Manipulating stuff around and figure I'll mess it up.
And
We're gonna have to work it all out, and we can. We're all adults. You will get it done. John McLaughlin, when he has time. Frank will get it done. I will get it done. John McLaughlin, when he fulfills many, many other responsibilities, which he indeed has. We do respect them. Bob, you wanted to say something?
I was just going to say, could somebody contact Frank and let him know we're trying to get his comments by May 6th, so he knows about this too.
I'll tell him tonight.
Great.
Actually, I think it's May, is it May 6th? Yes, right. I had the wrong day.
May 6th.
Thank you for that.
All right.
Okay, Tina, do you have anything else you want to say?
No, I don't think so. I just hope that the document meets your needs, but we're more than willing to do what we need to do to get it there. So
Thank you.
understanding that we
Thank you
do
for
have a
coming.
section on wildlife and alertedness from people hiking and biking, but we did not address the issue as we were instructed not to.
Okay,
You're
So-
Fair enough.
wise.
Well, we just listen to what we're told. So, but that's it.
other old business, I can't think of anything. If anyone that can, please say so. Other new business. If anyone has some, they can mention it now. In our petty cash at the WECO account, we have $2,967. The treasurer's report, we have beginning unencumbered balance of $242,604, ending unencumbered balance of $2,046,093. We've received tax revenues of $8,900. We've paid out $3,100 in operating expenses, $2,275 on our loan. The current debt outstanding is right at $20,299. May I have a motion from you, John McLaughlin or Hugh, to approve the district payroll input form wages for Robin Albro, a total gross of $618.
So moved.
Hugh seconds. Hugh, you're muted. Okay,
Second.
no
second.
discussion. Well, all those in favor of paying Robin her wages, raise your right hand, say aye.
Aye.
Hugh, raise your right
Aye.
hand. Thank you very much. Consent agenda, motion to approve the following payments to Dr. Carmichael and his firm for $923. The invoice in the Whatcom County Administrative Services for $30 to payroll service reimbursement to Robin Albro for payment on the post office box of $182. I gather that's the annual rental and payment for Robin Albro for an invoice for mileage. I wonder if I could have a motion to approve these following payments.
So
Move
moved.
to approve.
I'll
Okay, one of
second.
you. Okay, John McLaughlin seconds. Robin, Hugh Beatty got in before him. He made the motion. He first did. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye,
Aye.
Hugh say aye. Okay, aye. Passes 3-0.
Aye.
could be a reminder, Robin Alvaro send an email to John Hymas. Send it to me, Robin, would you? John Hymas doesn't seem to
Yeah.
be around. John McLaughlin, Hugh Beatty, to confirm that we approve paying these bills, okay? With that said, I wish you all a good evening. I'm going to write Frank and tell him to get his comments in. John, have a lovely time on your trip and good luck on all of your work.
Gonna bring all the students back.
Okay. Good night, Dr. Carmichael and lovely Vincent. Okay.
Yeah, good night. My internet went out and now it's back, so I don't know what happened.
I don't know.
Well,
Good night, everybody. Bye.
good night, everyone. The meeting is now adjourned at 6:53. And the next meeting, 6:53. The next meeting is May 25th. We will see you, those of us who are supposed to be on the steering committee, on May 5th, I believe, Vincent.
No, 6th.
May 6th at 8 o'clock.
Yeah.
The next meeting of the park board will be on May 25th. We are now in adjournment. Good night to all.
Good night.
Hey.
Thank
Good
you.
night.
Bye.
Night.
Night, Hugh.